Why here? Of all the places on Earth, why did this remote island of fire and ice, surrounded by dark seas, become the cradle of so much myth and magic? Iceland, a land of glaciers and volcanoes, fjords, and dancing skies. From this rugged, isolated place emerged legends that would echo across the north and through time. Tales of giants and gods, dark versus light, and realms just beyond our reach. Here, the earth itself seems alive, breathing secrets for those who will listen. At the heart of this mystery are the Icelandic manuscripts. Tens of thousands of pages, the earliest recordings of northern mythology, almost all emerging from this one place. With the likes of Thor and Loki. These tales became the seeds of modern fantasy, inspiring everything from Tolkien's Lord of the Rings to the realms of Marvel. And they're more than just ink and parchment. They're glimpses of a time when magic and reality were one. Yet why Iceland? Why were these stories first recorded here? In a place so remote? I've come to find out, to follow the threads of these ancient words into the mountains and glaciers and see if this place still holds the pulse of its past. This is my journey into the unknown, where the answers might be beyond anything I ever imagined. This is Iceland, the realm of magic. In Reykjavik, these priceless Icelandic manuscripts are preserved and guarded at the University of Iceland by Dr. B.K. Stegman.
Fróðlegu bóksagnasjóður innihaldandi vel marga afraksvæna söguþætti þeim til fróðleiks sem þvílík girtnist. So that means an uplifting or informative treasure of book stories and sagas for those who are craving or looking for information and entertainment.
This right here is a window into the culture of Iceland, born from this island.
Yeah, and that's from a very long tradition. The oldest were written in the 12th century and the youngest are from the late 19th century. They tell us about this world of these mythological gods. Thor, Odin, Freyr and Freya, Loki. And maybe you've heard about the story of Thor fishing for the Midgard serpent or just like throwing his hammer. Stories that talk about magic creatures like trolls and vultures and what have you. Things like that are known to us thanks to the manuscripts.
So when I look at a movie like a Marvel movie about Thor, I'm actually looking at a story that was passed down all the way back, even earlier than when this book was written.
Correct, and Lord of the Rings is also inspired by that whole realm, yes.
Wow.
Yeah, so even before the technology of manuscripts, people were telling these stories and passing them on to each other. And they would recite them presumably in the evenings when they would all get together in the household, especially in the winter when it's like dark and cold. Everyone would gather together for stories.
So you're telling me that this book, these pages, were looked at under firelight, candlelight?
Yeah, in the turf houses, presumably.
So these turf houses, they're out in the countryside? Like, these are the original dwellings of the people that lived here and told these stories?
There's still some turf houses that you can go and visit.
If I want to feel where these were written, and I want to feel where these stories were told, then it's the turf houses I have to go to.
They would at least give you a very good idea of the feeling, I think. They're very intimate when everyone in the household would gather around at night and listen to these stories be recited.
The first known settlers here, the early Vikings, built homes called turf houses, shelters of earth and grass that protected them from the biting cold and dark northern winters. It was within these walls, huddled around the embers of a fire, that they would come together, passing the endlessly long nights with stories. Within these stories are attempts to make sense of this land's persistent and seemingly unexplainable phenomena. As I begin my journey to one of these turf houses, I'm meeting up with a friend named Thor.
Oh man, so good to see you.
But this Thor isn't the hammer-throwing type.
Welcome. What do you got here?
He flies drones.
You should see this.
Oh my.
There are whales feeding.
I can see it.
Like 50 of them here.
Oh my, oh.
This is amazing.
Those are humpbacks.
Yes.
Wow.
They dive
just right there.
You just have to be patient to get the shot.
Is this every day in Iceland? Is this just like a typical moment?
I mean, you can basically see them every day, but maybe you'll have to just find the area where they are. I've been waiting for this moment to capture them feeding. It's unbelievable.
All right, Thor. Thank you for the very first moment being a whale moment.
Absolute pleasure.
Did you ask them to be here? You asked them to show up, didn't you?
Yeah.
Cue the whales.
Yeah.
Iceland sits on the boundary between two separating tectonic plates, the European and the North American. It's a primordial landscape literally splitting in half, continuously erupting and growing every day that passes. But for the earliest settlers, the Vikings, how could they have known this? As I stand and look out towards the distant smoke of a volcano, I can only imagine what those settlers must have felt, must have thought, must have imagined. The land's constant rumbles and steaming fissures must have humbled the fiercest of Viking warriors.
Can you feel the heat?
Yeah.
It feels warm. Look at all these colors. Green, red, blue.
Yes, guys. Wow. What is happening? What is this? Why is the moss steaming?
Deep down under us is a flowing lava. Like probably 5, 6, 7 kilometers under us. Then we have the sea in between and where we are standing now. So it's heating up the sea and this is the steam coming from it.
We're sitting on top of a pot of steaming ocean, being cooked by the lava itself. And yet, the only way to describe it is that it feels magical.
Can you feel the spirit? It's so peaceful. I'm out of words. I could say it in Icelandic though.
What would you say?
Það bara ótrúlega magnað og gott fyrir sálina að koma á stað eins og þennan.
What does that mean?
It's just unbelievably good for your spirit and soul to spend the time and take it in a place like that.
Like imagine showing up on a Viking ship 1,000 years ago and not having a modern understanding of geoscience. How would you explain steam and heat rising up out of the earth, smelling like this, bubbling, sounding like this?
Make stories or, yeah.
You make the stories to explain it.
Yes.
Nature often reminds us that our illusions of control are just that, illusions. Here on this geological cauldron, at the edge of the Arctic Circle, that reality is in full display. Forces that are both awe-inspiring and destructive strip down illusions of control until you're left with nothing but your imagination to make sense of it all.
Can you hear the noise? Can you hear the roar? What a beautiful scene. Look at it.
I don't have words. That's the liquid earth
Yes.
emerging.
New land being formed.
I'm totally lost for words for maybe the first time in my life. I feel like I'm looking at something elemental beyond imagination. Right now I'm trying to comprehend that for my entire life I've looked down at rock and thought of it as an inanimate, solid object, and yet now I'm seeing rock that looks and feels alive. Each one of those explosions is a new piece of land. And that's your town over there?
Yeah, that's my town over there. That's the sad part about it. If you would have asked me like 4 years ago, like why do you build a town so close to a volcano, I would say we don't have a volcano so close to our town. They are in the middle of nowhere in the highlands. Because nobody knew that this was coming to us. So
And yet it's here.
I mean, this is beautiful, but it's tragedy as well. I'm getting emotional talking about it. Like, this is amazing, facing that way, but when you look to the town, it's not so amazing.
It's weird how birth and death are tied together. How creation and destruction go hand in hand.
I mean, we have all accepted because that's the only thing we can do. We have no control, and this is Mother Earth. I mean, I would not be here if I didn't think this was amazing and beautiful.
Yeah.
Kind of resetted my life, and I live in a different town and going from there.
This is it. You have to accept.
Yeah.
This is a living, breathing thing.
If we would be quiet for a minute, we could feel the heartbeat of the volcano.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Look at that piece.
Oh, brother.
That-
Oh my God.
That rock was bigger than a car. That was my Jeep flying there. Literally.
There's no more.
Oh my God.
Oh, there's no fireworks anymore for me in my life. This is it.
Look at this. Dear Albert, I left you a scarf for your own journey ahead. It could get cold. Be well and good luck. I hope you find what you're looking for. Your friend, Thor. Yesterday began with whales and ended with a volcano. You could feel the primordial energy just on the rumble of the earth itself. You can imagine people telling stories about this, writing in their books, carrying their books. And now, I write in my own, feeling the same power.
Last night, I dreamt I was a Viking, standing on the belly of a giant, lost in a foreign world. Everything shook under me. And then I awoke. And I find myself now in that very same land. Thor said he hoped I'd find what I was looking for. What am I looking for? I'm looking for the origins of the Norse myths. I'm looking for the realm of magic. Will this land speak to me? Will it tell me its stories? The wind knocks me down, loud and piercing. The quiet is just as loud. The silence echoing through the canyon walls. The sound of water emerges, growing louder and louder the higher I climb. I can feel the sound pulsing through my whole body. Until everything stops. And a new sound emerges, far in the distance. I wonder, are these the sounds that inspired the realm of magic? Passed down through stories from generation to generation. The realm of giants and heroes, struggles and triumphs, the duality of light versus dark. The realm of wonder and imagination. Is this what I'm hearing? The elements groan and buckle. Softly, nature is speaking to me. Ancient whispers echoing through the tunnels of ice. What are they trying to tell me? What is this place? pierces my bones with every step I take as the icy wind emerges. The landscape seems to stretch larger and larger. Once again, I'm lost and cold. Humbled by my smallness. This land is bigger than me. The forces of nature are bigger than me. Is this what originally inspired the manuscripts that drew me here in the first place? The stories imagined by those that may have sat right here and felt their light battling against their darkness. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's what the manuscripts were describing. That in the face of overwhelming power, when you realize that you have no control, and embrace your futility. That's when the magic and beauty can reveal themselves. Because the universe is just that, magic and beauty within the chaos. I awake to the sight of a distant turf house. A dwelling hidden into the landscape. This one's a replica built from archaeological surveys. But as I enter, I step deeper into the world of ancient stories.
Welcome, Albert. You look like you've been having quite a trip of it.
Yeah. I'm meeting Terry Gunnell here, a scholar of northern folklore.
So right from the time of the Stone Age, once people sit around the fire, they're pulled together by the warmth, but they also find ways of communicating with each other through stories.
This is where the stories were written?
It's where the stories were told, and somebody then writes them down to preserve them for later on. And they're considered not in terms of writing, but in terms of sound. We need to realize this, these people couldn't read themselves, they couldn't write. These poems existed almost like music in a form of sound. And if we can take, for example, the most famous of the Eddic poems, which describes an ancient seeress being brought back to life in a room, and then she tells the god Odin, "Ár var aldur þar imi beili var ég sandur, né sær, né svala unnir." The beginning of the poem describes a world when there is nothing out there, nothing's been shaped. You can hear there's no hard sounds in there at all, it's just the sound of rippling water on beaches. And later on, as it heads towards Ragnarök and the end of the world, as people go into war, you have a sound change completely into something like this. Bræður munu berjast og bönum virðast munu systrungar sifjum spilla. Hart í heimi, hordómur mikill, skeggöld, skálmöld, skildir eru klofnir, vindöld, vargöld, á the veröld steypist. And that's describing the end of the world as brothers fight each other and kill each other. You can hear the sound of weapons going on in the background. And behind all of this, there's the sound of the wolf, which is something like this. Geir garmum mjög fyrir grípa helli, festur mun slitna en freki renna, fjöld veit hún fræða framsigi lengra Ragnarök römsig tífa. and you can hear the ahs and the growling of the wolf. So imagine this woman, in a sense, originally would have been speaking about what can happen if you don't take care of nature and the world around you. Everything will burn up, and then the tree will collapse, and then hopefully the world will come back again. So that gives you a sense of what it might have been like within a hall like this on a dark winter evening.
When Thor took me there, you know, he was so energized by the very thing that had destroyed his home. That very basic wisdom that comes to anybody who's experienced struggle was in his eyes as he stood there and cried, looking at the volcano. One part capturing the tragedy he felt in his heart, and another part experiencing the joy of the beauty of nature itself.
You're experiencing the feelings of the first settlers who came here, who encountered this very living surroundings. This island here is a living entity. It's still growing. And outside, we have sounds. Nature speaks to you in various forms. The bubbling of the water, the growling of the volcano, the uncomfortable grinding of the glacier, for example. But it's not just sounds even too, it's much more than that. This landscape takes you and shakes you.
Is that what these stories are? The magic that has then weaved itself into Tolkien and hobbits and giants and elves, to Frozen, where you've got trolls rolling around out of rocks.
Tolkien is doing with Lord of the Rings, to a certain extent, is that he's trying to bring back the way that people in the past sensed nature, saw nature around them, which we tend to have lost contact with in our own cities that we've created for ourselves. For him, he wanted to take readers back into a world where a tree is very much alive and can even speak to you, where nature can talk to you.
But I hear the sounds in the voice itself that emerge from this land. I have my best friend, she said this thing to me. I was like, why is it that when things are so hard, that's when the magic comes? She says, when you have no options left, all you're left with is your imagination. And that's what I felt up there on that mountain. And I don't know if I imagined it or if it really happened, but the sky began to dance with cosmic rays. I felt maybe what was felt in a room like this 1,000 years ago, as those origin stories were written. I felt the same existential awe. In the hardest moments, if you see them for what they really are, they often present the most beautiful realities, hidden just beneath the layer of the hardness.
I just got a Viking challenge.
In Iceland, you become Viking strong.